Hello friends, Mel Jeffcoat here, and we are going to take another look at Ramon Lull, the medieval philosopher, and his art that he used to think about all sorts of different things and analyze them. So today we are going to go back to the computer and take a look at the final analysis of the first triangle of figure T. That's a mouthful, so let's take a look at that visually. So here we are with figure T. This is one of the two main figures of Ramon Lull's art, and we are currently looking at the first triangle of B, C, and D. Now here is a simplified version that we've been looking at over the last few videos, and previously we've covered what sensual and intellectual means in the terms of the language used in the Middle Ages. And in this case, sensual means you can sense it with any of your five senses, and intellectual means it's an abstraction. So we took a look at comparing two physical objects to each other, and we've taken a look at comparing two ideas to each other. In this video, we're going to look at how you can compare a physical object or being and an idea using this system of difference, concordance, and contrariety. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the example that I used a few videos ago that I used to demonstrate the difference between sensual and intellectual. And that was the example of a physical house, say the one that you live in, or apartment, or whatever you live in, versus the idea of a home. Now, the idea of a home that you have in your head, it probably came from partly, at least from memories of where you grew up. It might be partly from movies that you've seen or books that you've read. But however it got there, you probably have some idea in your head of what a home is and what your home would be. And then on the physical end of the spectrum, you have where you actually live right now. So you can do this analysis to see how close your current living situation is to this ideal vision of home. Let's take a look. So at vertex B, you would look at the differences. And so these are differences that define. They're not differences that exclude, because that falls under contrariety. You would look at the ways in which your vision of home and your actual surroundings are different. They're not the same, but they're differences that don't really matter, or that you can live with, or that are acceptable. And so then going down to the C vertex, which is concordance, this is where the place where you live, how it actually does meet your vision of home. Like maybe, for example, you grew up in a house that had a fireplace, and in the winter there is a big cozy fire, and your whole family gathered around the fire and played board games. And so that's just, a fireplace is really, it gives you that feeling of home. And so if your current house has a fireplace, then that would be concordance. If it had, for example, a gas insert instead of an actual wood fireplace, well, that would be a difference, but maybe it's close enough that it doesn't matter, or maybe, it's a reasonable substitute. But if you're going to look at contrariety, those are the things that you have to have in order for it to be home. For example, if your idea of home included a lot of space, a lot of land around the house to have gardens, to play in for whatever reason, if you currently live in the middle of a city on a very small city lot, then there is no possible way that that location can ever have that huge yard that is part of your vision of home. So in that sense, they are mutually exclusive. They are contrary. There's different levels of contrary. Maybe everything else is perfect about this place, and so you can live with that amount of contrariness to your grand vision. Maybe not. This isn't about what you should do, it's just analyzing what is. And once you have worked out how your house, for example, or your place where you live fits your idea of home, you can also get to decide how much it matters to you for each of the things. And that is actually where figure A might come in, because figure A, in Lull's version of figure A, was God, but you could make your own version of figure A, which has all of the highest ideals, the things that are most important to you. And you would use that as your compass, your North Star, to point you in the right direction. I'm speaking very generally here because this is highly experimental, and I don't know of anybody who's done the experiments necessary and lived with the results to say how well this actually works. But I think it might. So if this is interesting to you as you watch these videos and learn more about it, then I highly encourage you to start experimenting and see what you can do with it, because that's how we can make this a living art again. If people explore and experiment and try things out and find what works now, because we don't live in the Middle Ages anymore, and we have different problems, different ideas, different ways of looking at the world, and we can learn a lot from Lull, but we can also change Lull's system, keep the spirit of it, but make it more useful for where we are. So that is my grand vision. I should put that in a figure A, I guess. So if you'd like to help me with that, if you'd like to be a part of it, certainly experiment with these figures and with these analyses and concepts, and let me know how it goes. That's it for tonight. I think we will probably be taking a little bit of a diversion to answer some questions after this, before getting back to figure T and looking at the other triangles. But we'll get into that tomorrow. So until next time, keep exploring.